Hello, World Tank Blitzers. It's a Littlefinger. It is February 1st, and I'm going to be doing a store review. Hey, haven't played too many Blitz battles this week. I have played a few Reforged battles, and I think the change is going to be good. I like the map layouts. I think there's a lot of work left to be done with the graphics. I'm not a big fan of putting the tanks into the bundles, but it is what it is, and I do think because of the number of changes, improvements that are going to be needed, it's probably going to be a little while before we see that switch to the new game engine. So with that being said, I am going to continue doing the store reviews. One of the things I did notice with Reforged, they had mentioned several times that silver is going to play a bigger part of the game. I don't know if they're getting away from the XP as much, but with that being said, for the containers, I always come in here and I always buy these just for the boosters because the boosters have in-game value, whereas with me sitting on 282 million silver, it's not doing me any good. So I'm always converting this to boosters to give myself value while playing the game. So I might step that down. We'll see how that goes. But for tanks in the store right now, we've got the Badger, 20,000 with a few extras, including the camo and the awesome containers. But if you buy it just by itself, it's 17,500 gold, which I do think is a little bit on the high end for this tank. I don't think the playstyle fits a lot of people's preferences. If you're out there and you like the slower play style, then you know this is a great tank. It has got good frontal armor, especially if you can use that 10 degrees of gun depression and slope this even more, hiding that lower plate. But keep in mind, it is on the slow side. So let's take a look here. 3,700 damage per minute before you even start getting into putting equipment on it. And you've got 275 AP and 370 heat, doing 460 and 390. There's that 10 degrees of gun depression, 10 degrees left and right before you have to move the tank to conceal that the camo net. But here's your 36 degrees of your 36 kilometers per hour top speed, 12 in reverse. So a lot of times you can find yourself out of position, and it's difficult in a tank this slow to get into the right position. So in a game where you find yourself in the right position, you're going to do really, really well. And those where you're not, you probably cannot help too much. So a little bit more lopsided gameplay with this tank. So just be aware of that if you're thinking about purchasing that tank. The M60 here at $36 equates to 23,000 gold. Way too expensive in my opinion for this tank. You're going to get the 300 gold boosters and some containers there and the camo with it. I like the standard camo by itself, to be honest with you, but the tank, as far as a tier 10 medium, it's at the top of the list in my opinion. It does everything really well, nothing exceptionally well. So we'll take a look here. So you've got 3,100 damage per minute. Very nice. You got 275 pen, doing 350 shot damage, 10 degrees of gun depression, and your mobility is 52 kilometers per hour. So very serviceable in all aspects of the game, but I just think the price is a little bit too high. Char Futur is a tier 9 medium tank. For $24, that works out to be 15,600. So this is still a fairly new tank. Price is still a little bit too high in my opinion for what it is. Your damage per minute for a tier 9, 3,000 is not too bad. And your average pen, 244, could be a little bit better. These French tanks, they all struggle with this gun elevation and gun depression, 15 and 7 there. So keep that in mind. Tough to play on hills with a tank like this, but you've got that 60 kilometers per hour as your top speed. So if you like tanks with good mobility, a small profile, this is a fun tank to play, but I still think the price is still a little bit too high. Always vigilant. All right, so we've got the CS52. We've got a tier 7 medium tank, a very solid tank indeed. 1900 damage per minute, but what you're going to notice here is 290 average damage. This is quite nice for a tier 7. And top speed of 47. So I do like this tank. It's quite serviceable, and I've always enjoyed the SU-100Y. It is big. It is hard to hide, and you know it's pretty boxy. But what I do love about this tank, and you're looking at the damage per minute, you're thinking that's pretty low for a tier 6. But keep in mind, this is one of those tanks that you want to try to use your premium ammo, which is AP. So you don't have to worry about not penning, like with a heat or Hesh or something like that. You've got the 530 when you pen that. So nice big damage for a tier 6 tank. And that's kind of the fun part of playing this. You can get some good damage numbers in the tank. 35 kilometers per hour as your top speed. So 6,500 gold for 2 of these tanks is not a bad deal, in my opinion. You can buy the CS for 5,000 or the SU-100Y for 35 by itself. All right, so we've got rapid firing 5s here for $8, which works out to be 5,200 gold if you're buying your gold at 650 gold per dollar, which is what I've been using for a while now. These tanks, so you're talking less than 2,000 gold per tank, which is obviously a good deal, but they are lower tier. So if you play lower tier, the Excelsior here is a bit slow, but you'll find the armor is quite nice. Let's see, 39 kilometers per hour, yeah. 13 degrees of gun depression. I didn't realize it had that good of gun depression. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. So average damage 1560. You know, it's one of these tanks. I think I've been playing it for quite some time and have yet to still ace it. So a lot of good battles are being had in this tank. The Chinukai, this is a rare tank. I don't think I've seen this for sale too many times. So they're dusting this one off. Damage per minute only 1252. You've got 160 damage per shot, and you've got 6 degrees of gun depression there, and 45 kilometers per hour is a top speed. I'm kind of mixed on this one. I haven't had great results with this tank. Maybe it's because of that 6 degrees of gun depression, or you know, for a medium, 45 kilometers per hour is on the slower side. So just keep those in mind. And then the Churchill, you know, I'm not a big fan of the Churchills. This is the Soviet variant of it. 1622 damage per minute, 8 degrees of gun depression, top speed of only 28 kilometers per hour. So this is painful to drive, in my opinion. So just keep those things in mind if you are considering that bundle, which is not bad price for a per tank basis, but some of those tanks you might decide you don't like. So just keep that in mind. We've got Might and Onslaught here, which is the Progetto 35, which in my opinion is a must-own tank. You must have this in your garage. And the Tornvagn 7,500 gold, which is an average price for a tier 8. So looking at it, you're definitely getting a much better deal buying it in the bundle. But I think probably a lot of you guys, if you're frequent in the store, you've probably already got the Progetto. So you're probably just looking at the tank by itself there. So just real quick on the Progetto and why I think it's a must own. It's got an active auto reloading system, so you don't have to worry about, you know, forcing reloads. It's got a nice damage per minute, and you know, if you can keep that within those first 2 shells, you're doing really, really well on that damage per minute number. And it's got good mobility, 55 kilometers per hour. So it's got a lot of things going for it. But as far as the Tornvagn, let's see here. If you look at this thing and its profile, it is really hard, if you've got this thing hold down, to do any damage to it. You know, you've got such a steep angle here on the front, and really nowhere to pen on the turret itself. So that makes the tank quite nice. But then on the flip side, 1863. We saw damage per minute numbers from some tier 5, 6s just a second ago, all very close to that. So, you know, it's got a higher reload, 400 damage, 10 degrees of gun depression, and 37 kilometers per hour. So you got to be a little bit patient with this tank and really use its armor profile to your benefit. Not get caught out. Try to find those hold down positions on these maps if you're interested in this tank. But again, 7,500 is just an average price, in my opinion, for a tier 8 tank. And then finally, we've got the E25 and the Churchill VIII. Just a few days left on these. E25, as I mentioned before, so 7,000 or 9,000 individually. So you're saving 2,000 by buying the bundle. E25, it is just fun in the sense that you look here, 65 kilometers per hour for this little teeny tiny tank. Get to some good spots. You've got some great camo rating. You can do a lot of damage with this tank if you find yourself in the right position. If you look at this 2937, pen is not exactly great for the tier 7, 6520, but it's a fun tank, and that's kind of why I like it. It's different. As far as the Churchill VIII, yeah, I bought this one, and I've kind of enjoyed it a little bit. It's kind of hits a little bit harder for a tier 6 tank at 270 average damage. Pen seems pretty nice, and the armor on it is good too. So I think I'm still hoping to get an ace in it. So we'll pull it out and play it a little bit more. And I think to finish out, and hopefully you guys are still here to hear this, it does sound with the Reforged, with them compressing the tiers down to tier 7, that there's more likelihood of getting into battles at the lower tiers. Right now, it's almost, if you're especially on the NA server, it's almost impossible to get into a battle below a tier 5. But it looks to me like you're going to have connection points, you know, throughout the world, but they're only going to have one server. So if that is the case, then everybody will be playing together. Yeah, there's going to be time zone issues, but hopefully that allows us to play these lower tiers a little bit more frequently. So with that, guys, I'm going to sign off. You know, stay safe, get educated, and Littlefinger out.